A cordial greeting. Today is Saturday, June 15, 2024, and this is meteorologist Ruben Garcia. This morning, I would like to provide an update on the torrential rain event anticipated for Central America and southern Mexico. I will also discuss the new predictions that bring significant rainfall to the states of Texas and Louisiana. As we have discussed over the past few weeks, the Central American Gyre has finally established itself over Central America. Remember that this is a broad circulation that develops between the Caribbean Sea and the Eastern Pacific. Currently, the Central American Gyre is strengthening and bringing heavy downpours across Central America and northern Colombia. We are particularly concerned about the accumulated rainfall projections that models estimate for areas in southern Honduras, Guatemala, Chiapas, and El Salvador. Later in the video, I will talk about the expected rainfall accumulations over the next 5 days across Central America, southern Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, and the states of Veracruz and Tamaulipas in Mexico. I will also touch on the strong rain event expected for the coast of Texas and Louisiana. This morning, we see that the heaviest rain is located just south of Guatemala and El Salvador, but the westerly wind flow will start to create convergence over these areas where weather conditions will deteriorate as the day progresses. Additionally, as I mentioned yesterday, we are monitoring the region east of Nicaragua where a low-pressure area could develop, move northwest, and bring heavy showers to the Yucatan Peninsula. This low pressure might interact with energy moving up over Chiapas in Mexico and towards the Bay of Campeche. Today, there have been some changes regarding the interaction of these two low-pressure systems, which complicates the forecast of possible tropical depression or even Tropical Storm Alberto. A few days ago, I mentioned that cyclonic development associated with the Central American Gyre is extremely complex. This is primarily due to the proximity to land, as the geography in this region is quite complex, potentially leading to significant changes in the cyclonic formation forecast. Additionally, as will be the case this time, at least two low-pressure systems are expected to develop, and their interaction complicates the scenario considerably. Some models now show lower probabilities of development, but we will analyze that shortly. The National Hurricane Center this morning has decided to maintain a 50% probability of development in the southern Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche. I believe this percentage is reasonable, and for now, I do not anticipate it increasing unless models show a more consolidated system. Regardless of whether a tropical depression or tropical storm Alberto develops, it is important for residents of Louisiana, Texas, Veracruz, and Tamaulipas to stay alert to the possibility of a tropical cyclone impact, which currently seems unlikely to be very strong. If a cyclone develops in this area, it would likely affect the western Gulf of Mexico coast between Tuesday and Thursday of next week. This complex interaction associated with the monsoon trough and the two low-pressure systems can be seen in this GFS model animation. First, note the constant westerly wind flow that will move over Central America, particularly over southern Chiapas, southern Guatemala, all of El Salvador, and western Honduras. This continuous moisture flow will cause torrential rains across this region, with the potential to create significant flooding and possibly a catastrophe for some areas. Therefore, it is crucial that if you live or are visiting this area, stay attentive to weather bulletins and follow the instructions of local agencies working to protect life and property. Additionally, I wanted to show you this image of the first low-pressure area moving just east or north of Honduras, and eventually crossing over the Yucatan Peninsula. This is the area that could bring significant rain to parts of Louisiana and Texas between Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Also, note another energy focus or low-pressure area developing in the Bay of Campeche, which would move westward over the states of Veracruz and Tamaulipas, also between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. How does this influence the possibility of cyclonic formation? The reality is that when we have two low-pressure systems so close to each other, they compete to generate a more defined circulation, and usually, this results in both systems remaining quite weak. Therefore, the most significant change in the forecast for possible tropical cyclone development is that it seems the circulation will remain quite broad, making it a bit more difficult for it to consolidate into a single system. At least these are good news, as it reduces the probability of a tropical storm forming. Regardless, heavy rain is still expected for parts of Louisiana, Texas, Veracruz, Tamaulipas, southern Mexico, and Central America. Our main concern is the potential flooding that can occur in these areas. I wanted you to see the infrared satellite image projection from the GFS model for Monday afternoon. This gives us an idea that we will have a rather disorganized system, possibly a low-pressure area or tropical depression forming in the central Gulf of Mexico. But note that the heaviest cloud cover and rainfall activity could be displaced northeast of the circulation. This indicates that shear winds may also affect the low-pressure area, complicating its formation and strengthening process. Let's now analyze the global model projections. But before that, I want to invite you to check if you are subscribed to my channel. Go to the bottom of the video, click the red subscribe button, and then click the bell to receive notifications when I upload new videos. This is important to stay informed during this event and throughout the hurricane season. Let's first look at the GFS model projection. Notice that between Tuesday and Wednesday, it shows a low pressure area moving over Texas. Remember, this is associated with energy moving from the Caribbean over the Yucatan Peninsula towards the northwest. We also have a low pressure system in the Bay of Campeche. You can see that between Tuesday and Wednesday, these two areas will be competing, making it difficult for a tropical cyclone to form. In fact, in the latest run, the GFS model does not show a tropical depression or tropical storm forming. This is a significant change compared to yesterday's projections. On the other hand, we also have the European model, which for Tuesday and Wednesday shows a low pressure area west of the Yucatan Peninsula and another low pressure area moving over the Texas coast. While it maintains a rather broad and weak circulation in the Gulf of Mexico, the European model eventually develops a tropical depression or tropical storm before reaching Tamaulipas or Veracruz on Wednesday night. Meanwhile, the German model shows a tropical depression forming between Tuesday and Wednesday and moving over the Texas coast. It keeps the low-pressure area to the south weak before reaching Veracruz and Tamaulipas. The UK model has a tropical depression forming during the afternoon or evening on Tuesday. What we can conclude from these projections is that we anticipate the development of two low-pressure systems, one in the northern Gulf of Mexico and another in the Bay of Campeche. Both disturbances will compete to see if a defined center can consolidate, potentially developing into a tropical depression or tropical storm. It also leaves us with uncertainty. We still don't know if the northern low-pressure area will consolidate and affect Texas potentially as a tropical depression, or if the low-pressure area in the Bay of Campeche will consolidate and move over Veracruz and Tamaulipas. This is why we cannot rule out the impact of a tropical cyclone by mid-next week between Texas, Tamaulipas, and Veracruz. For now, I personally believe that the low-pressure area moving over the Bay of Campeche towards Texas has the highest probability of development. However, I will continue to monitor changes in the projections. This uncertainty is clearly seen in the ensemble members of the GFS model, where some show a weaker low-pressure area located over the Bay of Campeche heading towards Tamaulipas and Veracruz. Some show a low-pressure area moving towards Texas and Louisiana. Importantly, only one ensemble member of the GFS model shows the formation of a tropical storm. This is a significant change in these projections. Meanwhile, the ensemble members of the European model in its latest run do not develop a tropical storm. Perhaps a tropical depression forming in the southern Gulf of Mexico over the Bay of Campeche heading towards Veracruz and Tamaulipas. We are seeing a favorable trend that the strengthening probabilities of that low pressure area have decreased with today's projections. Let's now talk about the projected rainfall accumulations expected across Central America, southern Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, Louisiana, Texas, Veracruz, and Tamaulipas. Remember, this is our main concern and what we should be paying attention to because the risk lies in the rains and floods expected during this event. Let's start by looking at the Doppler radar projection according to the GFS model. Note that significant rainfall is expected for parts of Central America from today, extending through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The strongest event for El Salvador, Guatemala, and Chiapas should be from Sunday to Tuesday. Also note that some rains will be recorded over the Yucatan Peninsula, Tabasco, Chiapas, and eastern, central, and southern Mexico, where rain will also fall but with less intensity. The highest rainfall accumulations seem to be between Guatemala and El Salvador. Here is the GFS model projection for El Salvador, projecting over 600 millimeters of rain affecting the coast and central part of the country. This is the projected rainfall accumulation over the next 5 days until Wednesday of next week. Residents of this area should definitely be preparing for an extensive torrential rain event. Moving a bit northwest, see the coast of Guatemala where between 200 to 300 millimeters of rain is expected over the next 5 days. Also note for parts of southern Chiapas, accumulations between 150 to 250 millimeters. In southern Guatemala and southern Chiapas, severe flooding can also be recorded. Keep this in mind when completing preparations. Let's move to the Yucatan Peninsula, where significant rainfall is also expected, especially for the state of Quintana Roo in Mexico, where between 125 to 250 millimeters is expected. This includes the area of Cancun, Cozumel, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and other nearby areas. Let's move to Texas and Louisiana where, as I mentioned earlier, we expect heavy rains between Tuesday and Wednesday. Note that in southern Louisiana, accumulations between 150 to 250 millimeters are expected. This includes the cities of Lake Charles and Lafayette. This projection from the GFS model shows that between 75 to 125 millimeters is expected in the city of Houston. My main concern this weekend is the potential for severe flooding across Central America, specifically in El Salvador, southern Guatemala, and southern Chiapas. This area must pay attention to the possibility of significant flooding due to the torrential rain expected in the next 5 days. Without further ado, have a great weekend, and remember that prevention always saves lives.